Here's some things to look for when you're diagnosing front clunks and knocks and stuff like that in the front end. There's a few different things that it could be. It could be your top ball joint, which is right here. That's kind of difficult to figure out. Your best bet is going to be to jack up the vehicle and then grab the tire at the top and at the bottom and shake it back and forth. Like pull on the top and push on the bottom and go back and forth. If it shakes and if there's any play, other than the little bit from the lug nuts and the wheel bearing, if you can notice a clicking or a knocking when you shake it back and forth, then either your front or your bottom ball joint are bad. That was the first thing that went wrong on my truck, front end suspension wise. After I placed those, I got both Moog ball joints, so they have a lifetime warranty. They're greasable. I haven't had a problem with them since then. They went out at about 80,000 miles, I believe, but in Michigan the roads are full of potholes and everything gets rusty real quick, so everything wears a lot faster. I'd expect them to last about 100,000 miles or so, but it depends on your driving conditions, how you drive, you know, the road you live on, stuff like that. After the ball joints went bad, I ended up having the sway bar links break. They actually snapped off at the bottom right down here, and so every time I hit a bump, the sway bar link would knock into the control arm. So that was the next thing that went bad, was the sway bar link. Well, now that the sway bar link and the ball joints are both replaced, I'm having a clunking problem, and it turns out it is the tie rod. And the way you detect whether or not a tie rod is bad is you could actually take it apart and inspect it, and you can actually see that it's pretty rusty and that there's no way that all that metal can come out and the tie rod can still be good, or the tie rod end can still be good. The way I figured that out was I laid underneath the vehicle and had somebody rock it back and forth, and then I put my hand on each thing individually. I put my hand on the sway bar link, put my hand on the control arm, the spindle. I felt everything, and the tie rod was vibrating much more in my hand than the rest of it was. So that's how I knew that it was the tie rod end that was bad. Another couple things it could be, it could actually be your shock, which it is right here, or it could actually be your shock mount that's grinding, which is right there. If that bumper goes bad, then your shock mount can actually grind on the shock, and that could cause a clunking as well. So those are a few of the things to look for. More than likely one of those 4 or 5 things is going to be your problem if you have a front end clunking or knocking or something like that. If it's not one of those, pretty much the only option left is going to be your control arm bushings, which are way up there. You have the front one and the back one on the bottom, and then you have your control arm bushings that are up at the top, right there and right there. If those start going bad, then you must have a whole lot of miles, because those are some pretty big bushings, so these smaller ones are going to go bad first.